guys, welcome back to my channel. We're here today to chat a little bit about my life, my reading life, since our last conversation, which has been longer than it should have been. I didn't get a chance to make a video last week because we were getting ready for our Thanksgiving trip. We usually go away to spend Thanksgiving with our family, extended family, and that took a little bit more preparation than I was intending. And I read a lot, but I didn't finish all the things that I wanted to, so I had this challenge, kind of. And I say had because I don't know if I still have it. I was thinking that I could read 30 books in 30 days, and it may still happen. I have a lot of books that are on the go that if I just finished them up, my numbers would be really, really good. But as it stands right now, I'm not on track to meet that goal. So we'll see. We'll have to see when we do our final tally. But right now, I'll talk a little bit about the books that I have read and finished since our last catch up. So I think I have 4 books to mention to you, plus a couple of others that I have started that I just wanted to mention. So yeah, I finished Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer, which I absolutely loved. I think this was a 5-star rating. And this is about one man, one adventurer seeker's story and how it ends. Chris McCandless, a 20-something-year-old man, hiked into Alaska, into the wilderness, and did not return in 1992. And Krakauer is a little fascinated by the story. I guess he was paid to write about it. He's a journalist, and so he wrote an article about it, and the story kind of stuck with him, so he ended up doing way more research and wrote this book. But the story doesn't just focus on Chris McCandless and his story. Krakauer is an adventurous seeker himself, and so he writes about his own personal experience, sharing a little bit of the motivation of going into the backwoods, wanting to explore, wanting to kind of live off the land, wanting to see, what you're made of and whether or not you can do the things that people from different eras would do. Maybe to pursue a little bit of the search for meaning that some of these famous authors write about. And so Krakauer goes a little bit into the investigation of Chris McCandless, his whys, WHY apostrophe kind of, as his motivations, I guess, his reasons for doing what he did. And as a hiker, backwoods enthusiast myself, nothing of the kind that is mentioned here. But I like going hiking and camping and so on. I like to see if I can prepare myself and go live off the grid for a little bit. But this made me think, just some of the preparations that you need to make. Yeah. I feel like I'm rambling and I don't want to. But I love this book. Highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't already read Jon Krakauer, pick him up. I read Into Thin Air, which was about an expedition on Mount Everest, and this one is about hiking and adventure seeking and why it's not something that you should do as a solitary experience. But yeah, love this book. Read it for nonfiction November, and so I had to mention it. Then I read the first book in the Little House on the Prairie series, Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And whether this is fiction or nonfiction, I'm still not clear. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read these books. What do you think I should what do you think I should classify it in my spreadsheet as? Is it fiction or nonfiction? Because I know it's based on Laura Ingalls Wilder's childhood, but the story starts when she is very young. She is she 4? When the book starts, when the series starts, she and her sister Mary, Laura and her sister Mary and her baby sister Carrie, and their parents have moved to Wisconsin to have a homestead, and the father is also an adventurous seeker and wants to live off the land like this guy, but he has a lot more skills, he's centered. He has a house, a log cabin that he has built, and he goes out and he hunts and he, prepares food for the family, and they're able to make it through the winter, unlike this guy. But it was very interesting, very striking comparison of the 2 men in these 2 books. So I was very glad that I read them around the same time, because it made me see how this guy should have been a little bit more like this guy, the father, the Pa character, because Pa was packing. Pa had his gun, he had his axe. He was out in the wild and he had to protect himself from animals. He had to have these skills to take care of himself and his wife and his 3 children. And although I get the feeling that homesteads were really big land spaces, they also had family that lived close by. And so in this book, we see family coming to visit, and we see the family, Laura and her family, going to visit the grandfather character and the grandmother character, and the community vibe that exists there, and how they trade and so on. So, while I think McKindless in this book is seeking a little bit of return to that simple life, we see what the simple life was like, and we also see that people were more adequately prepared. So I feel like Chris McKindless in this one reads Tolstoy and Thoreau's Walden and Jack London's Call of the Wild, but maybe he should have been reading some little House on the Prairie series. But I'm not blaming him, okay? I'm not blaming him. I admire what he was trying to do. I just feel like he was a little bit of a victim of his own pursuits, his own ideals. But we won't get into that. Love the book. Love both of those books. 4 stars, I think, so far, just because this is a children's book. But I'm definitely reading the rest of the series, so more on that later. Then I read this memoir that the publisher sent me to review, and I absolutely love this book. This is called The Deep Limitless Air, a memoir in pieces by Mary Ellen. And Mary Ellen is an author. Previously, this is not her first book, but I think this is more like independently published. This was published by Blue Light Press, First World Publishing. And in this one, she talks about her life, going to the Iowa Writers Workshop, the jobs that she did before that, and why she was motivated to go be a writer and pursue that as a career, even though she knew, and she was maybe not discouraged but cautioned about what the life of a writer is like. But man, I love her voice in this. I just so admire her strength in sharing the harsh realities of her life and her experience growing up, her separation from her mother, because her mother, she said, didn't love her. Like, she lived close by, physically close by to her mother, but was neglected in terms of just having that bond with her mother. So she was fostered by someone who seems like lived down the street, and her sister grew up in the house with her parents. I thought that was just like fascinating. So yeah, this book has chapters. It's a memoir in pieces, like it says, and she talks about very significant things that have happened through her life. You see the relationship with her mother and her father as she grows up, and who they are to her, the very different ways that they treat her, and how she reacts differently to them. We see her relationship with her sister, and how eventually when she loses her sister, what that is like. And so we see the passage of time through how she processes her experiences. There's a little bit of a discussion of therapy, and something she talks about hypnosis, and I forget, no, it's an acronym. I should have made a mark. It's an acronym, MSDR, ASDR, something like that, where it's channeling, like visualizing different outcomes or something. I don't remember the acronym, but I love her voice in this. Her writing is just beautiful. I wish more people would get a chance to read this book. It's, like I said, it's an independently published book. So if you feel impressed to check out an indie book, maybe today, go check out this book. I posted my review on my blog, runwright.net. I posted my review on Goodreads, and I'm chatting about the book here. And so maybe get a few more eyes on this book, because I think this is a book that deserves to be read. She explores a lot of things. This woman has lived a life, a really rich life. Like, she experienced a mass shooting in the 1990s, before mass shootings were, as commonplace. hate to use that term, but as commonplace as they are right now, like there were 2 mass shootings on one day last week. There were 2 mass shootings at Walmart over the last few days. I don't know. But yeah, she talked about experiencing a mass shooting in a school where she was working. She talked about losing a friend to suicide. She talks about relationships that she's had. Like I said, the difficulties in her family, just relationships with animals, and there's a lot in this book, and I highly recommend that you check that one out. And then the last book that I have finished in this section was this book that Patrice Jones. Hi Patrice, thank you so much for sending me this book. Patrice sent me this book as a companion because we read Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton recently, and something that Doris from All the Books had told us to do was to pair children's fiction with literary fiction. And so Patrice sent me this book because it's also set in Johannesburg and shows a little bit of some similarities in the story that we read in Cry the Beloved Country by Alan Paton. So this is Journey to Joburg, a South African story by Beverly Naidoo, I think is how her name is pronounced. Her husband, I think, is of Indian descent, but the author is a white woman who grew up in South Africa. So she grew up in the apartheid system, benefited from it, and she said as a child she didn't recognize what was happening. Like her mother was of Jewish background, and so she knew of Anne Frank's story, and she knew that if she was growing up in Europe, there's a possibility that she would have been discriminated against. But living in South Africa, she never thought that children there were being discriminated against right around her. And so that is an addendum, like that is an author's note at the back of the story, but this story is really powerful. It's about 2 children who are the heroes for their own family. They travel, they run away from home essentially to go find their mother who's working in Johannesburg when their baby sister is sick, and they want the mother to come and just like fix things because the other adults in the house are reacting, but they want mom to come home and fix things. And it is how they travel to Johannesburg and what they learn about themselves and what they learn about life and the apartheid system when they travel. So this is a really powerful book. It's a children's book, very short, but man, it's powerful. And then the author's personal story that she shares at the back of the book makes this an even more powerful read. So highly recommend this. 5-star rating. And so yeah, those are the 4 books that I have finished. I am still reading the book club pick, one of the book club picks for this month, which is The Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James. This is talking about Toussaint Louverture and the San Domingo Revolution, the Haitian Revolution. And I'm still reading it. I'm not finished. I'm about halfway, and I have a lot that I want to connect to, so I'm kind of reading it a little bit more slowly than I intended, which is why I'm not done yet. But I will finish, and I will chat with you about this one a little bit more in the upcoming days. And then I started a buddy read, The Golden Notebook, Doris Lessing. I'm reading this with Britta from Britta Bowler channel. Britta Bowler. Hi Britta. So I need to catch up for our buddy read, and we'll be discussing this. So more on what this book is about in my next video, because this is a little longer than I intended. So yeah, those are the books that I have been reading recently. And then I got 4 books from the library. We missed our library check-in because I got these books from the library on Wednesday afternoon, and we left for our trip not long after, and I didn't get to share them with you. So I'll just show you the 4 books. I got Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I got The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I got Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. This is for Native American heritage awareness. And Wild by Cheryl Strayed, because Wild should make me feel better about hiking after having read this book. So yeah, those are the 4 books that I got from the library last week, and maybe I'll finish one of them in the upcoming days. And so yeah, right now I think I have about 15 books finished so far for the month, and we're on day 27. So I don't know if I'm going to make my goal, but you'll have to come back for the next video, which will probably be very soon, so I can tell you whether or not I made more progress and I can share that with you. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments down below your reactions to these books, what I've been saying. I chatted a lot. I rambled. I chatted about some things that I may regret having said. But you know, it is what it is. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Go watch another video if you wanna, you know, if this is your first time on my channel, go watch another video. Hear what I have to say when I'm a little bit more organized. So yeah, until we come back for another video, happy reading. Bye.